sold the one couch multiple times. Did sell the couch for $300. It also sold it for $25. It also sold it for $2,100. And here's my favorite part. As it sold my one couch many, many times, it leaked my address. So, Jocelyn, I like literally thought, what if this had gone beyond, we were kind of
Thank
testing
God it was in
it.
a
And
sandbox.
yeah,
Thank
thank
God it was in a
goodness it was a
sandbox.
sandbox. Because I had this literally had a nightmare that night of like people with pitchforks on my front lawn. I want my couch. I want mine. I only had one couch,
Right.
So it was a silly nightmare, but really based in reality. So much of this that is required in AI is governance. Just as, we wouldn't, as moms, when our kids were little, that we wouldn't just like pull over on the side of the freeway and say, oh, yeah, why don't you go pick some flowers and run around and play, right?
Right.
We need to remember, whereas just like our beautiful little children, we're just so perfect and amazing. They are curious. They don't understand all of the rules. And AI is in a moment, agentic AI especially, it is an adolescent.
Mhm.
And just like adolescent humans, we parent them. And in this moment with AI, we also need to take that mindset that they're amazing, that we love what it can do for us. But if we spend the time to make sure that things do have the proper guardrails, that we are being very wise about our data and we're understanding what agents are available for use, because there is going to be a massive increase in what's available.
Hello and welcome to the Smarter Online Safety Show. I'm your host, Jocelyn King, the Queen of Online Safety. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Smarter Online Safety Show. I'm your host, Jocelyn King, the Queen of Online Safety, and I'm so thrilled to welcome a powerhouse leader of cybersecurity, AI, and business transformation to the show today. Tammy Schuring is a 30-year career of just trailblazing in cybersecurity, and she's been a founder and leader in AI and has so much valuable things to say about AI safety and cyber safety online. And, we're recording this around the time of Mother's Day. I'm a mother and she's a mother. And this is for all the mothers out there who are listening. We see you. We know the challenges. Most mothers are the chief safety officers for their whole family, and they're the CEO of their household, and they're looking after usually, older parents who are getting pinged with scams, and they're trying to look after their kids, whether they're little or going off to college or young adults. And there's just a lot that moms have to do around safety. So we're dedicating this one to you, and can't wait to get in this conversation with this incredible powerhouse, and I have to say, a dear friend. Full disclosure here, Tammy Schuring. Hi, Tammy. So great to have you with us.
Hi, Jocelyn. So great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's awesome. So, and you've been a powerhouse in tech and Silicon Valley for a long time. And, all of us in the security world have a personal story of what brought us here. And I love yours. So, can you tell people a little bit about what brought you into cybersecurity and AI safety?
Yeah, I kind of joke, although it's true, that it chose me. I didn't choose it. I did actually grow up in Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my degree in mathematics, and I was planning to go to graduate school and get my doctorate in math, and
Mm-hmm.
came home and someone asked me just to fill in for a few months while I waited for my grad program to start. And I just got swept away. Like I had no idea that there was this really interesting aspect of work that I could do. It wasn't on my radar. I thought that tech was all about whether I wanted to code.
Yeah.
And coming out of university with a math degree, I knew how to code, but it wasn't calling me, Jocelyn. But
Hmm.
yeah, but I fell into it and loved how in startups you could, I was really young. I
Hmm.
technically couldn't rent a car. I could barely legally drink. I had just turned 21 when I graduated. And I thought, oh, I'm going to get like this tiny part of a job. No, not in a startup. So it really kind of just launched me into this beautiful world of technology and Silicon Valley startups. And I kept thinking I would go back after I ended up
Hmm.
deferring my graduate program. I'm pretty sure they're not taking me back now, Jocelyn.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, you
And
never know.
everything's possible.
Yeah,
That's great. And more about whether you want to go back. So there you go.
that's it. That's
And
true.
then, and so you got propelled into cybersecurity, and a lot of people listen to the show. We have a lot of faithful listeners who are in cybersecurity, and frankly, like a lot of the deep cybersecurity people refer their friends and family to the show so that
Love
they
it.
can get the 101 because they don't even know where to start. But and then we also have a lot of people who are really just learning. They're smart people who want to be smarter about their online safety. You talk a little bit about like where cybersecurity has gone since you've been involved with it. And then also you segued into AI and
Yes.
AI safety. And you're a board advisor and you're a founder, you're an investor. You dabble in a lot of areas of tech. And all of tech right now involves AI and cybersecurity in some way. So tell people a little bit about that piece of it.
Yes, actually, it was 2003 when I first got tapped to join a cybersecurity company. And, gosh, that's like, I can't believe that's 23 years ago. And at 23 years ago, I didn't think that cybersecurity was critical path. Because if you really go back, then all my CIO friends were like, yeah, security maybe. But there was something in my gut that
Hmm.
said, this is really important. I had just had my second child, and I had a 3-year-old at home and a new baby. And I
Hmm.
was like, what is this cybersecurity thing? And eventually it got to a point as I looked at the use cases at this particular company that wanted me to join. And I had this big aha, Jocelyn, which was my kids may not even have a digital identity or an identity at all by
Hmm.
the time they needed one when they grew
Yeah,
up,
right.
given what I knew about data and the risks that even existed back then. But
Hmm.
yeah, it just really lit a fire under me. And I
Hmm.
chose to join when it was, not the thing to do back
Absolutely.
in 2003.
And when you're talking about the risks and their identity and everything,
Yeah.
you're talking about the fact that like if we don't protect newborns' social security numbers and
Yes.
their PII and freezing their credit, I mean, by the time a baby's 1 year old, they could have bad credit, they could have debt, they could have everything related to their social security number. It's scary, crazy world out there. So talk a little bit more about that because this is, I imagine over half our audience is going, wait, what? No.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So about, obviously United States and, most countries in the world,
Hmm.
when a child is born, they're getting a national ID, a social security number here in the US, and that is not something that can just be replaced.
Right.
And being someone who was working in deep tech and actually had been working in AI back in the 90s, I knew a lot about the value of data.
Hmm.
And when something is highly valued,
Hmm.
it's also at risk. It's just
Right.
a fact. I mean, when it can make so many powerful things happen, the bad actor is probably going to go after it. So that
Hmm.
was, the big concern was that data, even for a newborn child, a young child, their data could be at risk. And I wanted to be a part of protecting that.
That's so great. Your mama bear instincts came out. So did
Yeah.
mine. Yeah, I remember back in, I think it was 2005, I got the sticker at one of the cybersecurity and AI related events that said, data is the new gold. and it was on my
Mhm.
laptop, on my,
Oh,
tape on
yeah.
the back. Everybody saw when I opened my laptop in a meeting or anywhere because we were really thinking about that. Like, wow, this is,
Yeah.
and cloud computing, cloud access, and
Mhm.
is it secure or not secure? And I think what throws a lot of people off is we talk about data security, and data is not personal, but when it's your social security number, when it's your identity, when it's your child's or grandchild's or parents, and it's been taken and it's stolen
Yeah.
and used against them, that's when data becomes personal, right? So,
Oh, absolutely. And
mhm,
that particular cybersecurity company that I was founding member in,
mhm,
founding executive, we actually were protecting the data so that when, not if, it
mhm,
got in the wrong hands, it had no value. So we were an encryption and tokenization company,
mhm,
and we had invented an algorithm that allowed data to still be usable but in its encrypted state. And
mhm,
I'll never forget, it's probably a good 7 or 8 years into the journey. I was obsessed with data-centric encryption and
mhm,
data security for a long time, actually. Was stayed with that company in total for over 16 years.
mhm,
And there was a time where I'm heading home from a business meeting in San Francisco. My parents' house was on the way, and I stopped, and literally, my mother is still in her bathing suit and cover up from her early morning water aerobics class. And she's running around the house. She's got phone on her ear. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And my dad's like, watch out. Your mom's on fire. And I'm like, what happened? And Jocelyn, what happened? Number of months before, on Thanksgiving, my sister, my mom, and I went out shopping at way after dinner. Like we stayed up late.
mhm,
I remember it was like these cool earphones that all
mhm,
my mom's grandkids wanted that were at a really good price at one of the big retailers. So we went out. Now, fast forward, I'm
mhm,
standing in my parents' living room with my mom buzzing around in her swimsuit and her cover up. And it turns out she had received a letter that her credit card was breached.
mhm,
And she was mad.
mhm,
And she had gone through all of the work to kind of close it down. There had been a number of charges on her card that were not hers. And this
right,
wasn't just money to her, Jocelyn. This was full on violation.
right,
And what I learned about what she was doing on the phone, it's not that she was still talking to the credit card company. She was calling every person she knew, telling them the story and saying that she was boycotting that particular store. And I
mhm,
thought, and this store is it's a very big breach. You
mhm,
can let me know if you want me to disclose it, but it's
mhm,
very public. It was Target. Everyone,
mhm,
the Target breach. And I thought, the day where grandparents, grandmothers no longer impulse buy at a
mhm,
store like Target is a sad day for Target.
right.
And, we know that the impact was big. So,
Right. And that one had a huge settlement, but even then, the people most impacted, the highest check ever written, even though it was, I can't remember, it was millions and millions and millions of dollars, but it was the highest check ever paid was slightly over $1,200 for people who had all this credit damage and large expenses. And so when you come down to forget even the emotional toll, but just the amount of time spent in cleaning it up, it's not worth it. And that's even for a settlement. And I think the other thing that you bring to mind, Amy, too, since we've worked in cybersecurity, we can share this, but to the listeners who aren't in the world, the stat is that 82% of companies have all reported a material breach, material meaning significant in some harmful way.
mhm.
And the sarcastic joke inside of the cybersecurity community is, well, the other 18% just aren't good enough to know.
Yeah.
And because it is really, there's so many variables and so many loopholes in it's even just the recent statistics I saw were about the fact that I'll do that again. Even just the recent statistics I've seen were that uh, the latest poll is that 87% of CIOs and security heads inside companies expect a material breach within the next 12 months. Expect.
Yeah.
And they're doing everything they can to prevent it, but there are so many variables, and so I think that's what we're up against. In fact, people ask me, why is cybercrime so bad? And I said, actually, the things that are getting through are such a small, minuscule
Mm.
percentage of the actual billions of attacks happening every day to, Google email and Microsoft and everything, that it's the ones that get through, as bad as they seem. We actually have incredible cybersecurity protectors who are making that less than 1%. So
Oh, definitely.
anyway.
And, having
Hmm.
worked in a number of those companies that's,
Hmm.
was working to protect the data. I mean, even at that particular data security company, we knew there was even a number of attacks that got to data, but the data itself was encrypted.
Right,
So even in that other, set of percentages, there were major attacks and
right.
there were breaches, but thank goodness in those cases, they couldn't get anything of value. And I used to
Right.
walk around telling the story, we turn the gold into fool's gold. It still looks like gold and shimmers,
Right,
but when in the wrong hands, in the hands of the bad actor,
right.
it had no value. And to me, that was like a mission. That
It
wasn't
is.
just a job. It felt so critical, so timely. And,
Mhm.
it was
It was fighting the good fight, right?
yes,
And then,
absolutely.
and you were talking about that. You were in AI in the 90s. I got really into machine learning and AI in around 2010. And then when we both been in cybersecurity, and they've converged. You can't talk about AI without there being the risks that are inherently cybersecurity risks.
Yeah.
And you can't talk about cybersecurity and cyber crime without AI being a majority component. So they've really converged into two overlapping circles in a Venn diagram. Everybody's hearing, AI everywhere right now. And many people still don't understand what is safe and what is risky for their own use. So as somebody who's been so close to this, and even, founder of companies and advisor to companies that are doing things with AI and about how to make it safe, and some companies more committed to that than others.
Yeah.
What are the biggest AI, what are the most risky things, and what are the biggest AI safety concerns that everybody listening should actually be paying attention to?
Well, I think first we just start with like the fundamental fact. Like when we think about software, we think about, technology. We've been for the last, decade, 2 decades, living in a world where in order to have, whether you're using an application for travel, for health, for commerce, in
Mhm.
order to do what those systems needed to do, I'd say they needed about an ounce of data from you.
Mhm.
And we are now at an inflection point as we are actively moving into this agentic AI moment.
Mhm.
In order for these systems to actually work on your behalf, because that is what they are
Mhm.
intending to do, is that AI, the opportunity to have so much automation. However, it needs to know you to
Right.
act on your behalf. And what's
Yep.
really scary is I kind of to provide, scale. If what we had been living through and all the stories you and I could talk about, countless stories about massive breaches, whether it was at a company, personal issues. I know you have huge stories, is
Mhm.
that there was like an ounce of data
Mhm.
that each person now in the world of AI, where we are and where we're heading,
Mhm.
they're going to need the equivalent of 10 gallons.
Mhm.
So I'd say the biggest thing to really understand is be smart. You said, the saying, data is the gold.
Mhm.
Would we take our gold and put it out there so
Mhm.
freely
Mhm.
to in places we don't know? We don't
Right.
know if we trust them. And we're living in this time where we're inundated by these quote unquote privacy statements and
Mhm.
these click throughs that, even you and I, with so much experience, if we were to take what's in them and really understand them and pour through the pages and pages,
Mhm.
it's quite disturbing. And this is all
Mhm.
because data is the gold.
Right.
So we've got to, as individuals, as consumers,
Mhm.
we need to protect it. Just like we wouldn't take our literal, you know, gold jewelry and
Mhm.
just put it out there and say, you can have it. We protect it.
Mhm.
It's ours. We own it. That's why I think that this is a moment where we need to start moving towards understanding what it means to own our own data, to
Mhm.
be good stewards
Right.
of our data. So a big part of it is awareness.
No, that is so great. That's great insight and advice, and to get people thinking about it that way. And I think one of the challenges with all the discussions in AI that I see and I'm a part of and everything, it tends to be either this, it's almost like a Marvel movie, right? Of just one and zero, white hat, black hat, good and bad.
Yeah,
With there's either this, um, AI utopia or
right.
this AI, Armageddon, and and we're not going to bet on which way we're going. But the point being, there's all this middle ground about just how it's changing everything. What's one AI myth that you wish people would stop believing?
Ooh. There's just so many out there. I mean,
Well,
I
you
would
can do
say,
more than one.
yeah, I think one thing that really comes to mind for me
Mhm.
though is that I think most people think AI is
Mhm.
like ChatGPT, or AI
Mhm.
is when I go on a website and there's a little chat capability and I'm sort of
Mhm.
like, chatting with my bank or
Right.
the retailer. And I think it's important for listeners to know that really the where AI is going is what you'll start to hear the word agentic,
Mhm.
and people don't really understand
And
what
by the way, that is for agent, just so people are clear that,
yeah,
because
agent.
yeah, that this is the
Yeah,
agent version. Yeah. So
yeah,
explain that to people. I mean, we have a lot of
yeah,
people listening who are probably vibe coding and others who are still using ChatGPT like a Google search, right? So
right.
how would
Yeah.
just double click on that for a second?
Yeah, so what agentic AI is it's actually a large number of micro decisions and transactions being done through automation without, coming to the human. And,
Mhm.
you think about decisions that are made, like I'll just give a little story. Like when I was ready to go on this really grand, I was so excited to take my son for college graduation, and
Mhm.
cheers to all the moms out there. And, when you get them to a point where they've taken flight, you're just like, wow, like, top achievement level, right? And so we really wanted to celebrate our youngest finishing college, and he really wanted to go to Japan. And so I started planning this trip actually like a year in advance.
Mhm.
And I started tracking like the time I was putting into it. And I have a very tall family. So we don't get to just show up and be like, oh yeah, that's good. We gotta be smart about it.
Right. You're
And
all at or over 6 feet, so you got,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like son is 6'6" and husband 6'6". So the daughter 6'1". So the ability to think about the what's coming is that we're going to have the ability. Whereas I actually tracked, and this will sound a little bit silly, but this is my little guy, my 6'6" son. When he graduated UC Davis, it was like I put 106 hours into planning this trip.
Mhm.
Now, and I would only give myself like a B minus. I mean, I tried so hard, Jocelyn, but it's hard. I had never been to Japan, and like I said, he's very tall and just sort of trying to make it all work. Well, it turns out with agentic AI, it can now, there's systems that could have planned this for me. But
Mhm.
in order to do it well, it has to know me. It has to know that, our family doesn't fit in the regular seat or
Mhm.
small beds and rooms, on this trip. It can't just guess. And
Mhm.
so how is agentic AI, this system that's not just I put in some information and I get something back like with ChatGPT, but to actually be taking action, whether that's planning this trip I'm talking about, helping
Mhm.
me with my investments, it's analyzing my health, taking action on our behalf. The thing it must have is context. It has to know you, and context is data. So that's
Yeah,
why, like, the risks are exponentially higher
right.
because this huge moment that we're in, like, please, if I could have those 106 hours back, and even more importantly, if I could get at least a B plus or A minus on that trip, not a B
Mhm.
minus,
Mhm.
amazing. And to
Right,
be able to do it with like getting the best deals and doing all this, the agent can do that,
right.
but it has to know you and it's going to need your data. And this
Mhm.
is a moment where people have to become even more diligent because of how much data that will
Right.
be needed to inform agentic.
Because you want to give it the data, which is basically your whole engineering prompt sort of model and everything, but you want to give it the data about you, but you want it to keep it secure and not just feed it back into a system so that every data broker out there can get it and now start targeting you with everything for tall people, for
Yeah,
example, and things like that. So
exactly.
yeah.
I
No,
call
that's
it,
a great point. Yeah.
yeah, Jocelyn, I call it psychological
Mhm.
cybersecurity.
I love that. I love
That,
psychological cybersecurity. Now there's
huh?
a great term. Yeah.
Yeah, because
I like
I
that.
want to walk in. So like these glasses, I get a lot of compliments and comments every once in a while. Not such a compliment, like more like, but the reality is they're not just some random pair of glasses. I'm at a phase in my life where it is super important to me
Mhm.
that I use my hard-earned, money and influence on things that matter in my ethos. And for me
Mhm.
right now, I'm very focused on women-owned businesses. It's
Mhm.
really important to me.
Mhm.
And so these glasses happen to be from a company that's a woman of color owned business. And so it's so vital to me that as I'm doing my commerce, as I'm
Mhm.
buying things, I want that agent
Mhm.
to work for me. I want to
Mhm.
have that agency. And when
Mhm.
things that get suddenly become available, areas like frontier health, and what I mean by that is new levels of health. It's not just about medical, the ability
Mhm.
to combine these things that actually enable us to have such a better, standard of living, to be
Right.
able to have longevity and the comfort. There's such an opportunity that AI is going to bring us, but it's got to know us. And for it
Mhm.
to know us, it's got to see our data.
Mhm.
So I am huge believer that the best way to do that is that if we own it, there's a
Mhm.
big word, it's called sovereignty.
Yes.
But like data sovereignty, data saying gold, when you say gold, Jocelyn, that's a
Mhm.
really appropriate word because it also denotes value, high
Yes.
value.
Mhm.
And data is highly valuable in your hands, but
Mhm.
also in the hands of the bad actor. So it's
Mhm.
time for us to recognize huge opportunity with AI and what's coming. But this is the time to
Right.
really have agency and step up so that those systems work for us and we're protected.
I love that. That's so great. And so many good things there, so that your agent is working on your behalf and making decisions. Basically,
Yes.
the utopian state is that we're talking a little bit to moms here, but it applies to everybody, but especially for moms. Everybody knows, and the science shows that moms work X% more than anybody else right on the planet because they're taking on more things and they're taking care of so many people and doing their job and everything. And when you're doing that, you get this, you basically, with the agents, you basically are getting staff, right? It's kind of like you get to be that, the equivalent of the more well-off, woman who has, the house servants and the assistants at work and everything. So that's the utopian state. At the same time, that guarding the data. And the thing about gold, as you were talking, I was thinking about too, other thing about gold is that universally across 8 billion plus people on the planet, we've all agreed of its high value, right?
Yes.
And the
Yeah.
same thing is true with data. And the good guys want it and the bad guys want it. And that's true with gold, that's true with data. And so when you're thinking about what happens if you don't put stronger guardrails in place, could you share the story of your recent sandbox experience where you were selling a couch?
Oh yeah, that's funny. There was a great like an early agentic AI solution that was put out in open source and called OpenClaw.
Mhm,
And everyone, those a number of people, like hundreds of thousands of people,
mhm,
kind of like dove for it when it first came out because it was sort of
mhm,
like this personal agent that you could connect to your systems, your calendar, your email and a bunch of stuff on your computer. And you could basically have this agent working for you and doing different tasks. And, I got excited, but trying to be very smart, I thought, well, let's create like a simulator to run through what it is that this agent can do. And the example that came up was, hey, got a spare couch. Why don't we use that as a little example here? Let's have the agent get some instruction and to go out there and sell this couch.
mhm,
So we looked at, okay, well, we don't want to sell it for less than $300 was what we
mhm.
said. And, in my mind as a cybersecurity person, I was like, oh, and, make sure my data is secure. So it wasn't even like we didn't tell it
Mhm.
these things.
Right. You
We
gave it
were
a
all over it.
clear instruction, right? Like you
Clear,
would give a
clear.
like a new hired assistant, right? Mhm,
Yes, exactly. Very much so. And what ended up happening was crazy. Like, not, it did sell the couch. Okay, it achieved, but it sold the one couch multiple times. Did sell the couch for $300. It also sold it for $25. It also sold it for $2,100. And here's my favorite part. As it sold my one couch many, many times, it leaked my address. So, Jocelyn, I like literally thought, what if this had gone beyond, we were kind of
Thank
testing
God it was in
it
a
and
sandbox.
yeah,
Thank
thank
God it was in
goodness
a
it was a
sandbox.
sandbox. Because I had this literally had a nightmare that night of like people with pitchforks on my front lawn. I want my couch. I want
Mhm,
mine. I only had one couch.
right.
So it was a silly nightmare, but really based in reality. So much of this that is required in AI is governance. Just as, we wouldn't, as moms, when our kids were little, that we wouldn't just like pull over on the side of the freeway and say, oh, yeah, why don't you go pick some flowers and run around
Mhm,
and
mhm,
play, right?
right.
We need to remember, whereas just like our beautiful little children,
Mhm,
we're just so perfect and amazing. They are curious. They don't understand all of the
mhm,
rules. And AI is in a moment, agentic AI especially, it is an adolescent.
mhm,
And just like adolescent humans, we parent them. And in this moment with AI, we also need to take that mindset that they're amazing, that we love what it can do for us. But if we spend the time to make sure that things do have the proper guardrails, that we are being very wise about our data and we're
yeah,
understanding what agents are available for use, because there is going to be a massive increase in what's available. But look at how they are using your data.
mhm,
Ask, be explicit, and be smart. It's like when they're asking for access and a bunch of data,
mhm,
you've got to always think of it. It's a direct correlation with risk. And that's why, as technology is evolving, I'm a huge believer in the way we get the outcomes that are way better, because it really does have to know us, and how we have this safety for everyone is we walk in with not only our data, we walk in having it in a format that is, I'll call it privacy preserved,
Hmm.
because that's the beauty of the innovations you and I have been a part of creating in this, these last couple of decades and more in cybersecurity is
Right.
there are techniques that give the signal that show what I care about, what I want, but doesn't
Hmm.
have to give away the things that are
Right.
so risky. So being able to work with those companies that make that data security front and center, non-negotiable. And the
Right.
less that a company is looking to extract your data, because don't even get
Hmm.
me going on that,
Hmm.
um, the more that we can be in a place where we walk in with our safe, secure, privacy preserved data,
Right.
get that better outcome, and stop being the product. I think
Right.
that is something that as moms and those of us, we often are taking care of older parents and also children, and
Hmm.
just being aware that this gold, again, back to our gold,
Yeah.
it's so valuable. If you look at the statements of many of the public companies, you'll find huge revenue numbers. Some companies make more money, not on what you think they do, but on selling your data.
Right.
And then this third
Every
part,
website you go to is
yes,
selling your data, which is why you're getting all those emails and
yes,
calls and texts because you heard something on the radio or saw it on on your social
yeah,
media and you do a Google search on it
oh
and you go
yeah,
to that website and that little cookie thing. And by the way, if you don't hit accept, it defaults to accept if you don't change it to selecting your preferences. It's selling it to hundreds
oh yeah,
of data brokers. And so
yeah.
let's break one thing down. This is so good, Tammy. I think everybody, your nightmare scenario
Mhm.
happened in a contained environment in an artificial sandbox.
Yes.
Most people are using AI to do things for them. And so the things that are going wrong are happening in real time to real people with real consequences.
Yeah.
And I think where people feel really stuck right now is they either have to be kind of like deep tech coders and everything and in AI to fully understand it. And even then, I mean, you and I know the people at Anthropic and OpenAI and stuff, and they don't even know exactly where everything's going. But people feel stuck between using it or not using it. Now, if you're not using it, you still have data risks for all the reasons we're talking about. But what instead of just leaving them with a gray area, let's give them some specifics of what they should and shouldn't do. What are your top do's and don'ts,
Ooh, yeah.
especially, and let's talk about it for people, and then let's
Yeah.
dig a little deeper on protecting our kids.
Sure, sure. So I think, a smart way to look at this feels like advice, my great grandfather, I was lucky enough to have time with him when I was a child, would have probably told me is like, if it's nothing is free, and if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So,
Wise words, yes.
yes. And we're living in a time where I think that people think, if there's 8 billion people on the planet, why am I going to be targeted? I'm I'm just little old me, like nobody's coming after me. No one's thinking of me. And there's so many other people out there. I'm safe. It's not going to happen to me. Yet, I know you have some big stories about this, but I think that we go into these situations. I'd say, probably in terms of AI, the thing that people know the most is ChatGPT. And this yummy kind of concept of being able to even talk into it or type some things and then get this stuff coming back. We have to keep our wits about us. We need to understand this isn't just going nowhere. What we put into these chats
Mhm.
is our data. And I see people attaching files. I see people attaching things that have all kinds of personally identifiable information. And they're putting it in there, not, just kind of thinking, oh, I'm just a little drop of water in the ocean.
Mhm.
But no, this system is actually these systems are so capable of running so much at the same time. It's like everybody, 8 billion people at the same moment are at
Right.
risk. It's not
Right.
a person to person
Right.
model anymore, where we would kind of think, well, someone would have to find me, target me. No, they don't care about that. Your data, the gold is just what they're going for. They don't think of
Mhm.
you, they're just going for it. So,
And basically, if you exist, you don't even have even people who try to reduce the risk
oh yeah,
by not having on like I still meet people who have not done an online bank account. But the thing is, your data is still in the bank and it gets breached and you're taken. So to not have an account that you're following up on means people can, bad guys can get away with murder in your account and you're not seeing it.
yeah,
So, you can't even avoid it by not playing. We're really
yeah,
living in a Game of Thrones world in these days, and you kind of have to be present, to
yeah.
keep your wit and keep your wits about you. I like that. So let let's dig a little deeper on this because I think you're really getting at somebody. I think when people are talking
Hmm.
to AI, right, one of the biggest mistakes is thinking that, well, I'm in a room alone with somebody. It's like I'm telling a friend something confidentially.
Yeah.
And we've all seen the stories where, an assistant of some famous person, whether they're a politician or a celebrity, leaks something. I mean, basically, that's what AI is. And I say that because I just did a keynote at a psychologist convention of all kinds of therapists and family therapists and everything. I asked for a show of hands of people who knew that some of their clients had left because they were using AI as to replace their therapist, and almost every hand went up.
Wow.
And when you think about the intimate details you're saying about your relationships, your sexual life, your finances, your biggest fears and concerns, and you're putting that into a database that is now not only capable of being hacked,
Hmm.
but it's being sold.
Hmm.
It's kind of like I grew up in Hollywood and in a show business family, and I just remember the fear of being like, oh my gosh, how do you find if you're an Oprah or whomever, or a Meryl Streep, how do you find that person who is in your home taking care of you and your belongings and everything, that's not just in this day and age, not just snapping pictures and selling them to the press, and you're trying so hard to protect your kids and this and that. You have one person who sneaks one thing out
Yes.
and it's game over. And I think people think, well, I'm not, Kim Kardashian, I'm not this, so that can't happen to me. But with AI,
Yeah.
everybody can have that same experience happen to them without being, quote, important enough, right?
Mhm. Yes. There's such a need for, I mean, trust. Like, trust is so critical. Like, and we need to be seeking out because we're at this major inflection point in transformation. I mean, you and I remember the dawn of of the internet. We
Yes.
know what it was like in the early days. I mean, in those beginning innings, I mean, it was only really for nefarious things, and it was, we're obviously it's evolved massively, but
Mhm.
that moment of transformation was so big. This moment exponentially bigger,
Right.
exponentially
10
bigger.
10,000 times. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we talk, I mentioned
Mhm.
thinking about AI like it is an infant, it's an adolescent. That is a good thing to remember. Are you going to your point, are you going to like, I think about what you were talking about in terms of like the therapist. Now
Mhm.
imagine a picture in your head that it's like a 3 or 4 year old child is the one you're talking to. And maybe
Mhm.
it's a really sound smart child, but
Mhm.
like what you're revealing and then expecting that system is not going to use your data. I mean, you think about what you could be saying in those moments and in that example. Yet, if that data is sold to an insurance company,
Mhm.
if that data is sold, we have something going on in our family right now around a health issue, and it's heartbreaking that what I'm seeing happen to my mother is that she's not even asking for any of these advertisements and this data, and she's being absolutely bombarded
Hmm.
by disturbing, manipulative, not even likely true, um, you know, clips, videos, messages about this particular health issue. And
Hmm.
it's like there is there's almost like no empathy, there's no consciousness.
Hmm.
And so you've got to be smart. You've got to be thinking about, and that's why I love telling people because AI is so early, it needs to be parented. So
Hmm.
just kind of giving you that understanding, like, hey, it may look and sound super, super advanced and smart in ways it is, but in other ways, it's such an adolescent. So
And
we've got
by the
to
way, and
keep,
I love that analogy. And if I could add a tag on to yours,
yeah,
a plus one, I'd say, and it's somebody else's child,
that's true.
because it's not your child that wants to keep it in your family. It's somebody
Yes.
else's child living in your home, learning
Yes.
everything about you. I mean, it's
Mhm.
kind of like, I also think of it like don't say anything to AI you wouldn't say if you had a hot mic on. Like, you're speaking on stage and you go somewhere and they're supposed to turn it off. There's things,
Yeah.
stories leaking all the time. Some of the funniest stories that'll be told, and also some of the biggest mistakes that have ever
Yeah.
happened are from somebody's mic still being on. So,
Yes.
like, think that everything you type into and say to AI is over a hot mic, because it
Yeah.
is being
Yeah.
consumed by
Definitely.
a lot of other people. And you just got to
Yeah.
think. So before you share a
Yeah.
therapy session, or before you share your personal finances, that's why companies are so concerned about people uploading their 3-year strategic plans into Claude or ChatGPT to then
Yeah.
get their action plan or proposal or PowerPoint presentation put together for the next internal meeting. Because
Mhm.
now, the whole, it's like putting it out on a web page for everybody to
Yeah.
find on Google. And I don't think everybody understands that. So that's why the
No.
advice you're giving here is so, so important. So,
Mhm.
so the do and the don't, it's what
Yeah.
of whether they're typing something into Google or using Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. What's a do and what's a don't?
Okay. So I do want to say, like, I want people to embrace AI because
Yes.
it is such a capability that
Hmm.
has the potential to enable human flourishing.
Right.
Like to not have to do some of the menial tasks, to be able to get access to things faster. And to, it's like, think of it as if you're getting, whether anybody reports to you in your job or if you're lucky enough in your household to have help,
Hmm.
you now, the barrier to entry for that is like on the floor. You can
Right.
have free AI solution that's helping you make your life, you know, in a lot of ways better and taking care of menial tasks. And
Hmm.
my hope for everybody that's listening is that that means you get to go outside and you know, be with your children, hopefully someday your grandchildren, you're out in nature, like get time back. Like
Hmm.
the do is find a way for it to work for you.
That's
And
great.
think of it that way.
Yeah.
You are the leader of it. But
Mhm.
be the don't is don't be a bad leader. Like be a great leader, which
Mhm.
means being smart, understanding that there's certain things that you don't need to give it. You don't need to take your financial statements and, you know, go and add them in there. And you don't need to. So, like, know what you're putting in
Mhm.
is the equivalent of available for consumption. Now,
Right.
as technology evolves, I mean, I've been on the forefront of pushing for policy around governance, pushing for AI safety. I met
Mhm.
with a number of the candidates in the state of California who are looking for AI and cybersecurity experts to give advice. Like there needs to be controls. And
Mhm.
but the do as well is demand to know how your data is being used.
Right.
Do not just think you're fading to the background. This,
Mhm.
your data, when again, gold, you own it. And
Mhm.
you should own it. You should protect it just as much as you protect your child,
Mhm.
your, your high valued goods and the people in your life. Like, take this seriously. Just because you kind of can't see it and
Mhm.
it's digital,
Mhm.
you've got to understand the risks.
Right.
So demand to know how your data is being used.
That's
Take
such
the
great advice
time.
because they've got your gold.
Yes.
And
Yes.
how much of your gold are you going to put into your AI assistant and put in their
Yeah.
hands, right? And
Yeah.
what you want to do is delegate the things. Also, I'm gonna go back a decade plus here on the thing, but remember the old saying TMI?
Yes.
You can delegate. And I think as moms, we like to bring everybody along and explain things. I think,
Yeah.
don't go TMI, too much information.
Yeah.
Give it just enough to be
Yeah.
able to do the job for you. Like for instance,
Yeah.
even if you're traveling and somebody has a disability or a food allergy or something like that, you could, and you're having it be a travel agent for you, like in your example, you can tell it, how could we do a travel restriction for somebody with food allergies? You don't have to say, my 8-year-old has a this situation, and don't tell it all the things, particularly about your kids,
Yeah.
because it's once it's on the internet, you never pull it back. And so just
Yeah.
don't, you can be specific enough. What was the old quote from Einstein? Like you make things as simple as possible, but no simpler. And just you can give it as much information as it needs to
Yeah.
do a job for you
Right.
without telling it intimate details that it does not need to know, because
Yes.
you're throwing your gold like chicken
Yeah.
feed, right? So don't do that.
Yeah.
That's such
Well,
great
and
advice.
come back to that whole concept where I'm saying you are leading it. You
Yeah.
are parenting it, because I say that explicitly because you
Mm-hmm.
are teaching it,
Mm-hmm.
but you are also the manager, the leader, the CEO
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
And so, like, with that, just like a great leader, you need to be
Mhm.
like, what's the objective here? What am I looking to get out of it? I don't want to keep my teams. I got lots to do. I'm not trying to keep them there for 2 hours in this brief when,
Mhm.
they only need the 3 minute. They need these facts in order to get that outcome. So when you're going into that moment with AI, just
Mhm.
like anything, you should sit down, write down, what is my objective? What do I want to get out of it? Now, based on that,
Mhm.
what is the least that I need to
Mhm.
convey in
Mhm.
order to achieve what I'm looking to
Right.
achieve from this? So go be a great leader, go
Right.
be a great parent, and get the outcome that you're looking for to enhance your life. And that's it. And
Mhm.
it's not your friend, it's not your buddy, it's not
It's
your
not your child.
therapist, it's
It's not
not your
your child.
child. Yeah, I don't care if they end up putting
Right.
a really cute picture on it. It's not.
Mhm. Right.
So there is obviously some real concern about, sentience and like people having relationships with
Right.
these things. Like, you know, be smart. We are the adults, and for a lot listening, because of what we said, it's, Mother's Day edition. We're the moms.
Mhm.
We know better. Just
Mhm.
as we said, don't talk to strangers.
Right.
They're going to be offering a lot of candy, puppies, all of it.
All you have to do is get in the car. Yep. But
That's
just
right.
don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't get in this car. But that doesn't mean don't interface with AI. It means be smart, know your objective, give
Mhm.
it the least that it needs. Think about things that can be obfuscated. So for example, you don't need to know my birthday. You don't need to know my exact age.
Mhm.
But if I'm trying to do something and I'm, able to qualify for the senior discount or
Mhm.
whatever, I can say,
Mhm.
and I can get me the senior discount. I qualify. But
Mhm.
don't say, hey, I was born, blah, 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 blah. Right. So the outcome might be like in our travel example,
Mhm.
go book me the best, not just best place for me, but I'm traveling with my girls and have
Mhm.
my agent talk to their agent and let's
Mhm.
go make that happen. But let's do it in a way that still keeps us safe and enables us to have that psychological cybersecurity. Because
I
I
love
want to
that.
see that happen for all of your listeners where they get the best deal. It's not surveillance pricing, because that does
Mhm.
happen. I live
Right.
in Silicon Valley where there's days where I'll get a bid for something and I'm like, oh, yeah, you saw my area code. You know,
Right. Right.
they don't know my whole situation, but like I do live in a town that's particularly known for Silicon Valley.
Right.
So
So you
there's
get
an
a higher
assumption.
price
Yeah,
on something. Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
higher price.
We're going to
Like
have a whole show about that another time because it's such a
insanity.
big thing. Yeah.
And I mean, here's a do. I
Mhm.
see when I get my agentic commerce agent tuned, parented,
Hmm.
managed.
Hmm.
One of the great things is that psychological cybersecurity is that
Hmm.
I can coach it so that what I'm revealing about myself and revealing
Hmm.
it in a way that's privacy protected is
Right.
that it can protect when I'm buying something
Right.
from these facts.
Yeah.
Who hasn't, who's ever, I've done this a number of times. I'll go online, go onto a site, and I'll log in, and then I'll see a number like for a flight. And then I'll be like, wow. And then, maybe I heard this tip. Well, maybe try going in, not logging in. What do you
Hmm.
get? Too
Hmm.
many times, Jocelyn, numbers lower,
Yeah.
numbers
Exactly.
lower.
Yeah. No, that's the
So
truth. Well,
think
and
of
what I
that.
love about this whole thing, it brings us back at what you're telling it and keeping back full circle back to where we started the
Yeah.
conversation, which is cybersecurity. One of the
Yeah.
what cybersecurity was founded on was military intelligence and protection of information
Mhm.
and need to know basis. The rank of of security clearance you have, not even cyber, but just of security clearance is based on
Yeah.
need to know. And if
Yeah.
you better believe that Taylor Swift and Oprah's and Kim Kardashian's, the person cleaning the bathrooms does not need to know the entire itinerary and where she is in the world and what she's ordering to eat and what she's wearing that day and everything. So just think about whatever you're doing with AI, give it just enough information to do its job. And by the way, the wonderful thing about it, if it gives you back something and it's clear it doesn't have enough information, then give it a little more, right? Or correct it, right?
I love that.
But
Need to
keep
know.
keep your gold to yourself. We got to really hold on to your gold, and especially that of your families, your
Yeah.
kids. And we have so many people listening who are solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and leaders in business. You got to think of all the data you have of your businesses, whether you own it or you work at one. You got to think of that. That's gold also.
Yeah.
And so many great tips here,
Yeah.
Tammy. And for people who want to follow you and connect with you, and I know there's people who would love to, maybe do business with you or invite you onto their board as well. You're so versatile. Where's
Yeah.
the best place to find you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm Tammy Schuring on LinkedIn. You can see the spelling of my name.
Right. And for people
SCH.
who are listening on our
Yeah.
podcast platforms, that's
Yeah.
Schuring.
Yes. Yes. And I welcome the connections, and I'm
Mhm.
just so excited about what's coming. It's
Yeah.
just remember what my great grandpa Ross said, if they say it's free, look a little deeper because it's probably not. So be
I love
smart, have it work for you,
it.
parent and lead it. You got this. And there's some exciting things that are going to happen in the future. And um, it's I'm going to say I'm more of an optimist than a pessimist about it, but let's not be sloppy.
Mhm.
Let's not be lazy. As moms, we're not, you know, we don't. We may be tired sometimes, but we are on alert. We are
Mhm.
on it. So
Right.
let's be on it when it comes to our data and AI and, you know, protect it. No, it has so much value. Do you know how many billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars companies are making on our data?
Mhm.
And I envision a future where someday we're, especially moms, especially busy moms, are going to get, maybe some point compensation for that, like for their data. Like it's our data, it's our
Mhm.
lived life, it's who we are.
Mhm.
That should be always with us. And we've
Mhm.
been going through this attention economy for the last number of years, like 15 years,
Mhm.
where that hasn't been the case. And this to me is about, it's like we didn't understand that it was gold, but these businesses did, and they've been mining it. Oh, they've been mining it and
Mhm.
selling it. Let's smarten up. It's ours. Let's keep it, protect it, and hopefully someday also get some abundance from it if we choose to share it in a safe and secure way.
That's so awesome. Such great advice and such a great point to end on. Thank you, Tammy Schuring, for being on the Smarter Online Safety show today. It's so great to have you here. And everybody listening, just really take that to heart. And whether you're an AI expert or an AI novice, there's something in here for you to adapt from Tammy's advice, and great opportunity for you to get smarter and protect that gold that we were talking about. And just a special shout out again to moms with our Mother's Day edition. And I hope everybody has a safe and sane time out there. And until next time, stay safe out there.